All right, we have officially been clobbered. Thanks, John. We've been clobbered with two verses, which, if we isolate them and set them apart and on their own, could leave us feeling very uncomfortable, especially if we are homosexual. But remember our opening prayer that we would be blessed in our discomfort because it is filled with holy energy, which compels us to work towards justice. Let's also remember that the Bible is God's story. The Bible tells us the story of God's love for this world and God's love for people, all people, people like you and me. These verses, which are part of a larger passage, commonly referred to as the Holiness Code, are nearly 3,000 years old. And guess what? They are not set in stone. Holiness codes are kind of like the church bylaws, fluid, flexible. They change as we live and we love and we grow. Holiness codes, just like the church bylaws, serve a purpose for a particular group of people in a particular setting for a particular point in time. And there does come a time when the codes just don't work anymore. It's true of the holiness codes and it's true of the bylaws. It's kind of like they have a life of their own. So the holiness codes found in Leviticus are filled with all kinds of prohibitions, including prohibitions against getting a tattoo, having your hair cut in a round style, working on the Sabbath, which could be a problem for pastors and preachers. There are prohibitions against eating pork, prohibitions against eating shellfish. There's prohibitions against wearing garments of mixed fabrics. Bye-bye polyester blends. Bye-bye cotton mixes. Ooh. And bye-bye football. There are prohibitions in the Holiness Code against touching pigskins. So I guess my first question is, if we had to follow these two that are pulled out in isolation and used to clobber people, shouldn't we have to follow all of them? Who agrees? We need to follow all of those rules. No pork skin, no football, no mixed fabrics, no shellfish. Just doesn't seem right to pull two verses out and say these. When we put the holiness codes and those two verses into their proper context, what we have is a list of behaviors that people of faith, again in a particular time and in a particular place, find offensive. And as I mentioned, what we see as holy changes. It is created and recreated again and again and again. For example, I used to have a prayer partner who was part of a faith tradition which had a holiness code which said whenever she prayed, she had to put a cloth on her head. I've had friends in other faith traditions who were not allowed to wear pants. There are some faith traditions that say it is not holy to dance. People have a way of creating their own holiness codes. It's part of what it means to be human. Some holiness codes, which belong to some faith traditions, insist on celibacy. Others encourage polygamy. I wonder if we were going to create our own holiness codes, what might they be?